The flight from Miami to New York seemed like any other. Families chatted, children laughed, and passengers scrolled through their phones. The sun was setting beyond the clouds, painting the sky with streaks of orange and purple. Inside the cabin there was peace, comfort, and the usual rhythm of air travel. But at 30,000 feet in the air, something went terribly wrong. Both pilots, men with thousands of hours of experience, suddenly collapsed. First the captain, then the co-pilot. The cockpit went silent except for the autopilot alarm. Flight attendants rushed forward, banging on the locked cockpit door. When they opened it, panic washed over them. The leaders of the flight were unconscious. In the cabin, whispers spread like wildfire. What's happening? Are we in danger? Who's flying the plane? The flight attendants tried their best to keep everyone calm, but the fear in their own eyes gave away the truth. Among the passengers sat a 12-year-old girl named Emily Parker, traveling with her mother for a family visit to New York. Emily wasn't an ordinary child. She had been fascinated by airplanes for as long as she could remember. While most kids spent hours playing video games, Emily spent her time on a flight simulator at home, learning the basics of aviation. She knew the layout of a cockpit better than most adults. As the chaos grew louder, the lead flight attendant made an announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, both of our pilots are currently unable to operate the aircraft. We need to know if there is anyone on board with flying experience. The cabin fell into an eerie silence. People looked at each other, terrified, waiting for anyone to stand up. No one did. Emily's heart pounded. She looked at her mother, who shook her head at first, fear in her eyes. But Emily whispered, "Mom, I can try. I've practiced. I know how." Her mother's lips trembled. "Emily, this isn't a game. This is real." But when the flight attendant repeated the call, Emily raised her small hand, hesitant but determined. Gasps filled the cabin. People turned, shocked that a child was volunteering to take control of an airliner. The flight attendant rushed over. "Sweetheart, are you serious? Do you have any training?" Emily swallowed hard. "I've flown flight simulators at home for years. I know the controls, at least enough to try. Please, we can't just let the plane fall." The situation was desperate. With no other option, the crew made a decision that would soon make headlines across the nation. Emily was escorted to the cockpit. She took a deep breath before stepping inside. The sight of the dark panels, the glowing buttons, and the motionless pilots was overwhelming. Her hands shook as she sat in the captain's seat. The headset was placed over her ears, and soon the calm voice of air traffic control filled her head. "This is New York Center. We understand a young passenger is at the controls." "Sweetheart, what's your name?" Emily's voice cracked but stayed steady. "My name is Emily Parker. I'm 12 years old." The controller paused for a moment, then replied, "All right, Emily. Listen to me carefully. You're going to be just fine. We're with you every step of the way. Do you see the autopilot button?" Emily scanned the panel, spotting the familiar layout she had seen so many times on her simulator. "Yes, I see it." "Good. Keep it engaged for now. We'll guide you to line up with the runway. Can you tell me your current altitude and speed?" Her eyes darted across the screens. Numbers flashed, but her training paid off. "Altitude, 29,000 feet. Speed, 300 knots. "That's perfect, Emily. You're doing great." Behind her, the flight attendant stood in awe. Passengers sat in silence, listening to the announcements from the crew, realizing that their lives now rested in the hands of a 12-year-old girl. Minutes felt like hours. Emily followed each instruction with incredible focus, lowering the altitude step by step. She repeated every command back to the controller like a professional. Her palms were sweaty, but her determination never wavered. "Emily, we're bringing you down to 5,000 feet. Once you're stable, we'll guide you toward JFK Airport. You're not alone." Her mother sat outside the cockpit, clutching her seat, tears rolling down her cheeks. "That's my daughter in there," she whispered to a fellow passenger. "She's always dreamed of flying. But I never thought it would happen like this." The cabin grew quiet, everyone silently praying for Emily's success. As the plane descended, turbulence shook the cabin. Emily gripped the controls tighter. "It's bouncing," she cried. The controller's voice reassured her. "That's just turbulence. Emily, keep the wings level. You're doing amazing." The lights of New York City began to glimmer in the distance. The runway was still far away, but Emily could see it on the horizon. Her heart pounded harder. "Emily, it's time to disengage the autopilot. Are you ready?" Her breath caught. This was the moment. With trembling fingers, she reached forward and clicked the switch. The plane responded immediately, and now, at last, Emily was truly flying. The massive jet wavered slightly as her small hands adjusted the yoke. Passengers felt the shift, but the voice from the cockpit reassured them. "The young lady is in control. Stay calm, she's doing great." Every second mattered. Emily lined the aircraft up with the runway, guided step by the calm controller. "Ease the nose down. Good. Keep your speed steady." "Perfect, Emily." The runway grew larger, the ground rushing up to meet them. Sweat dripped down her forehead, but she kept her eyes locked on the landing lights. "Flare the nose." "Now! Touchdown!" The plane jolted as the wheels met the ground. A loud screech echoed, then silence, before the sound of cheering erupted throughout the cabin. Emily had done it. A 12-year-old girl had landed a commercial airliner with nearly 200 passengers on board. Tears, applause, and hugs filled the cabin. Her mother ran to her, wrapping her in the tightest embrace. "You saved us, Emily. You saved us all." By the time emergency crews reached the plane, news had already spread. A child had pulled off the impossible. Overnight, Emily Parker became a household name, celebrated not just for her bravery, but for her calm focus when it mattered most. That day, at just 12 years old, Emily proved something powerful. Heroes don't always wear uniforms or badges. Sometimes they're found in the unlikeliest of places, like a young girl with a dream of flying, who turned it into reality when the world needed her most. With the help of air traffic control on the radio, Emily made her way into the cockpit. Her small hands gripped the controls, her heart pounding. "Emily, you can do this." The calm voice of the controller guided her step by step. Passengers held their breath as the aircraft descended, watching through the windows as the lights of New York grew brighter below them. The runway came into view. Emily kept the wings level, following instructions with laser focus. The plane trembled as it cut through turbulence, but she didn't panic. She pulled back gently, flared at the right moment, and against all odds, touched the plane down smoothly. The cabin erupted in cheers, tears, and applause. Strangers hugged each other. Mothers held their children close. Flight attendants clapped their hands to their mouths in shock. And there, in the captain's seat, sat a 12-year-old girl who had just achieved the impossible. That day, Emily Parker became a national hero, proving that courage can come from the most unexpected places. The aftermath on the runway. As the aircraft rolled to a stop, emergency vehicles swarmed around it. Fire trucks, ambulances, and police cars lined the runway, lights flashing. Paramedics rushed on board to check the unconscious pilots, while others made sure passengers were safe. When Emily stepped out of the cockpit, she was met with stunned silence, then thunderous applause. Her mother rushed forward, tears streaming down her face, and embraced her tightly. "You saved us, baby. You saved us all." Passengers crowded around, some shaking Emily's hand, others simply saying, "Thank you." For many, she wasn't just a child anymore. She was their savior. The two pilots, though still unconscious, were stabilized and quickly transported to a nearby hospital. Later, it was revealed they had suffered a sudden case of severe food poisoning from an in-flight meal. It was a freak incident, but one that left a plane full of lives in jeopardy. Media explosion. News spread like wildfire. By the time the passengers were escorted off the plane, local reporters had already gathered at JFK Airport. Cameras flashed, microphones were thrust forward, and the same question echoed everywhere. Is it true? Did a child land the plane? By the next morning, Emily's face was on every major news channel in America. Headlines flashed across the screen. 12-year-old girl lands jet after pilot's collapse. Courage at 30,000 feet. Young hero saves 200 lives. The miracle flight of Emily Parker. Morning talk shows replayed the landing simulation again and again, with aviation experts explaining just how difficult her task had been. "It wasn't just luck," one former pilot said. "The girl showed discipline, calmness, and knowledge under pressure. Most adults wouldn't have managed what she did." Tata, recognition and honor. Within days, Emily and her mother were flown to Washington, D.C., where she was invited to the White House. The president himself shook her hand, praising her bravery. "Emily, you are proof that America's future is bright. You didn't just save lives, you inspired millions." Airlines and aviation schools reached out, offering scholarships and free training once she was old enough. Flight simulator companies wanted her as their ambassador. Even NASA sent her a letter of congratulations, encouraging her to follow her dream of flying. Emily, shy but proud, told reporters, "I didn't do it alone. Air traffic control helped me. I just listened and tried my best." The passengers' gratitude. Many of the passengers kept in touch with Emily long after the flight. Families sent her letters, thanking her for giving them another chance at life. One father wrote, "Because of you, I got to walk my daughter down the aisle." Another mother shared, "You gave my son his first birthday party. We will never forget you." Emily's story wasn't just about a single act of courage. It was about how one child's determination rippled out and touched hundreds of lives. Life after the flight. Though she was only 12, Emily's life changed overnight. She returned to school to a hero's welcome. Her classmates cheered as she walked through the halls, and teachers proudly introduced her as our very own pilot. But Emily remained humble. She still did her homework, played with her friends, and helped her mum with chores. The only difference was the dream inside her had grown stronger. She knew without a doubt that she wanted to become a real pilot one day. Her story inspired thousands of young people across the country. Aviation schools reported a spike in interest, especially among girls who saw Emily as proof that they too could fly. The pilot's message. Months later, the two pilots who had collapsed that day fully recovered. They requested to meet Emily in person. When they did, the captain knelt down to her level, tears in his eyes, and said, "You saved not just the passengers, you saved us too. I owe you my life." Emily simply smiled and replied, "I just did what I had to do." A legacy of courage. The story of Emily Parker became more than just a headline. It was turned into documentaries, books, and even a movie project. Aviation schools used her flight as a case study in emergency response. Psychologists discussed how children, with their calm and fearless minds, sometimes react better under stress than adults. But at the heart of it all was a simple truth. A young girl with no official training had faced a nightmare scenario at 30,000 feet and saved nearly 200 lives. Closing reflection. That day, Emily reminded the world of something powerful. Heroes don't always come in the form of soldiers, firefighters, or police officers. Sometimes they come in the form of a child who refuses to give up when others lose hope. Her bravery lives on as a symbol of courage, determination, and the incredible power of staying calm under pressure. The next time you board a plane and look out at the endless sky, remember the story of Emily Parker, a 12-year-old girl who proved that greatness has no age.